All right, question number 5. This one's a little bit different. If there's no answer for it, that's fine. But this is just kind of designed to see what what's going on in your guys' heads, and what you're thinking about as far as going in possibly to the county council. So the question is, what, if any, legislation would you introduce if elected to a county council seat?
Well, I'll speak to what I know. Obviously, that's what we hope here. The last thing we need is people making things up just to say how good. And my business right now, I work in the real estate business. Okay, my company does maintenance and light construction on real estate-owned homes. That's a real nice way of saying homes that were foreclosed on. These are homes that were taken from folks because they couldn't pay their bills. Now, there's also cases where there's estates, folks have passed away and there's nobody to take care of those things. My legislation would be to, well, first of all, we have many homes that are sitting in disarray. They're horrible parts of the neighborhood. We try to do our best, but again, it's what gets paid for. To make sure these homes get back on the market, okay? That's the key is we have an opportunity to grow our community organically by having people here who are happy, safe, healthy, and whether they're the future vice presidents of companies that will then bring their companies here, they're the current regional or presidents. What we want to do is we want to see those folks in homes. We want to see homes take care. So legislation would be making it easier for folks to purchase homes, making it easier for folks that are just never going to pay their bill. If you look into it, the government subsidizes to keep those homes vacant, okay? What we want to do is get past that red tape and say, you know what, this home is not going to be paid for by the folks that lost the home. Let's get this home back on the market. Let's get it back to its beauty it was. Let's get folks in that house that need a house, and let's get back moving forward to a happy community. So it's a long answer to a pretty involved question, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewandowski. Mr. Larson?
I believe that honesty is the best policy. I have not thought about introducing any legislation. I am new to politics. Mr. Schneckenberger said when we met the first time, nobody knows you. I got into this, really started thinking hard about it in October, looking at expenditures, the tax increase. That's what got me out from behind the keyboard and got me up off the couch and talked to several people, started talking to people at church, friends. So really why I'm here is because I think we keep doing the same things. Dan has us at a slight disadvantage because he's the incumbent. He's been in there. He understands many things on many levels. I don't want to speak out of school. We've met with several department heads to try to get a better understanding of where they're coming from and how their budgets operate and their challenges, so we could try to speak intelligently to you about how we feel about those things and how we might do things differently. So I have not given a lot of thought to introducing legislation. Legislation isn't what got me involved here. Our spending problem, in my opinion, it's a spending problem, not a tax issue. They're kind of hand in hand. So the short answer is no. I can't give you legislation that I would spit something off the top of my head and try to sound good. That's not what got me here. It may come later, but right now I'm more concerned about making a change at the county level and trying to inject some fresh blood and different thinking, more along the lines of fiscal responsibility.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Mr. Schneckenberger?
I will tell you, sitting on county council, it's very, very difficult to introduce and pass legislation, even though 2 years ago, even in the charter, we were prohibited. We gave ourselves the authority to be able to do some things, change ordinances, things of that nature as the county grows, and have a little bit more flexibility rather than taking the initiative from the administration, which we may or may not agree with. One thing that's really intrigued me is some of the tax cut bills that have been introduced, enabling legislation. So the state says, if you're a veteran and you've lived in a house so long, we'll give you a tax cut, blah, blah, blah. Hartford County went ahead and enabled that legislation for their veterans. It's not a great tax cut bill, but it's a start. There were a few more introduced in the General Assembly that were put down for some for first responders, some for a few other constituent groups. And honestly, I know the answer from a lot of people in the room will be, hey, all of us want a tax cut, not just those groups. But I will tell you, from what I heard mostly from the property tax increase from last year, was seniors were getting beat up with this. They had fixed incomes, it was gonna take it out of their budget somewhere. Those are the people I felt the most concerned with. Even went to our finance department, how can we delay this? How can we do something that protects these people on fixed incomes? I got told a lot of, nah, we can't do much, we don't know how old they are, it's gotta be this, it's gotta be that. But I think already we have some enabling legislation. I already talked about this $30 million new tax base that we've created from economic development, I believe is also going to grow this year. We certainly will have opportunities to reduce the tax burden on everybody, and those are things I'm going to look hard to if I'm reelected.
Thank you, Mr. Schneckenberger. Mr. Wilson.
Big question. I wish I had a lot of time for this one. The tax credit over in Hartford County for the retired citizens, that's something that they do have in place. It's 20% additional on top of what the state will give you. We don't have that because basically we have a spending problem. The seniors that we have in this county are pretty far down on the list. So we need to be able to do better in this county to be able to look out for them as well. I would love to be able to implement, and that's one of the things that I would be working on, is to make sure that our seniors are taken care of, or those that are retired are taken care of. This is one of the worst states to retire in. And we really need to start looking out for people that are in this community. I really seriously doubt that those that are retiring are worried about $18 million libraries and turf fields and the field house down there. Look at the property taxes list, the delinquent property taxes. You think they're worried about those things either? No. So we need to start working better for our senior citizens. And as far as the payout to Amazon and stuff like that, a piece of legislation that I mentioned a little bit earlier is I started working with some of our delegates here in the state, and I tell you, it's going to be a long shot, but we need to start pushing back and start getting Annapolis to understand the situations that we deal with here. Rather than giving money to companies to relocate, we need to create an environment in which businesses will grow on their own. And government needs to get out of the way. And government is right now hindering businesses from being in here, whether it's state or whether it's local. And to make the division between whether or not it's local tax money or state tax money, it's still tax money. It's still a burden on the taxpayers, regardless of where it comes from. The piece of legislation that I've been working on is an economic buffer zone that I've already contacted delegates on. We compete with Delaware. Nobody goes to Hartford County, and Hartford County doesn't come over here to buy a product because the tax is the same. So to create an economic buffer zone, what we're looking for is to have some type of legislation put in place into Annapolis to be able to give us a little bit of a break to create a better business environment, especially in the retail area. If we could get a break on the sales tax, if we could get anything to be able to reduce our taxes down on our citizens so that businesses would be able to compete, we would do much better. Government needs to get out of the way so businesses can flourish, not pay them off or subsidize them. Pick winners or losers, like Ed was saying. We need to, as business, clear the area so that business does better all on its own.